The fire had failed, the idols had fallen, the people had rejected him. Yet Ibrahim never looked back. He walked away from his homeland, leaving behind everything familiar, with nothing but complete trust in Allah. To the world, it looked like loss, but with Allah, every sacrifice was leading to something greater. Years passed. The prophet who had stood alone against an entire nation now carried a single prayer deep within his heart, a prayer for a righteous child. Allah answered that prayer, but the blessing would soon become the greatest test a father could ever face. Why would Allah command his beloved prophet to leave his wife and infant son in the middle of a barren desert? How did a valley without water become the holiest place on earth? And why would the son he had waited a lifetime to hold one day be placed upon an altar for the sake of Allah? These were not ordinary trials. They were the moments that transformed Ibrahim from a righteous prophet into Khalilullah, the friend of Allah. The journey that began with a blazing fire was now about to reveal its greatest miracles. This is the final chapter of the extraordinary story of Prophet Ibrahim, the story of unwavering submission, limitless patience, and a legacy that continues to guide billions of hearts to this very day. Years passed since Ibrahim had left his homeland. The fire had become a distant memory, but one prayer never left his heart. Again and again, he turned to Allah and humbly asked, "My Lord, grant me a righteous child." For many years, that prayer remained unanswered. Yet Ibrahim never lost hope, because he knew that Allah's timing is always perfect. Then, when all worldly hope seemed distant, Allah gave him glad tidings that child was Ismail. Imagine the joy. A prophet who had sacrificed everything now held in his arms the son he had prayed for so many years. But Allah's plan was far greater than anyone could imagine. One day, Allah commanded Ibrahim to take Hajar and the infant Ismail to a distant valley, a place unlike any they had ever seen. There were no houses, no trees, no rivers, no signs of life, only endless rocks and burning desert. Today, we know that place as Makkah, but at that time, it was completely deserted. Ibrahim obeyed without hesitation. When he reached the valley, he left a small bag of dates, a skin of water, and prepared to leave. Hajar watched him in disbelief. She followed after him, calling out, "Oh, Ibrahim, where are you going? Are you leaving us here, where there is no one and nothing?" Ibrahim did not answer, not because he didn't care, but because the command had come from Allah. Finally, Hajar asked the question that changed everything. "Has Allah commanded you to do this?" Ibrahim stopped. Then quietly, he nodded immediately. Her fear turned into certainty. She said, "Then Allah will never abandon us." What extraordinary faith, not only from Ibrahim, but from Hajar as well. Soon the food was gone, the water ran out. The cries of little Ismail echoed through the silent valley. Desperate Hajar ran toward the hill of Safa, searching for anyone or anything. Nothing. She hurried to Marwa, still nothing back and forth. 7 times she searched a mother's love, driving every step. Then Allah sent relief from where no one could have imagined. Angel Jibril struck the ground, and from beneath the tiny feet of baby Ismail, water burst forth, clear, pure. Hajar rushed toward it, trying to gather the flowing water, as she said, "Zam Zam," meaning stop, stop. And by Allah's permission, that blessed spring has never stopped flowing. For thousands of years, it has continued to quench the thirst of millions. What seemed like the most abandoned place on earth had become a place of unimaginable blessing. But Allah was not finished. The son who had been saved by Zamzam would one day become the center of the greatest test his father would ever face. Years passed. The infant who had once cried beside the spring of Zamzam had grown into a righteous young man. Ismail was strong, kind, patient, and devoted to Allah. For Ibrahim, every moment with his son was a reminder that Allah had answered a prayer he had carried for decades. But sometimes the greatest blessings are followed by the greatest tests. One night as Ibrahim slept, he saw a dream, not once, but repeatedly. For the prophets, true dreams were revelation from Allah. In that dream, he saw himself sacrificing his beloved son. Imagine his heart. This was not merely a difficult decision. This was the child he had waited a lifetime to hold, the son who had grown beside him, the son whom he loved with all his heart. Yet Ibrahim knew that nothing could come before his Lord. When the time came, he did something extraordinary. He did not force his son. He spoke to him with honesty and love. What happened next is one of the most remarkable moments in human history. Ismail did not run. He did not question Allah's wisdom. Instead, he replied, "O my dear father, do as you are commanded. If Allah wills, you will find me among the patient." A father prepared to obey, a son prepared to submit. Together, they walked toward Mina, not as victims, but as servants whose hearts belonged completely to Allah. Along the way, Shaitan appeared. He whispered doubts. He tried to fill their hearts with hesitation, but Ibrahim rejected him again and again. Those moments are remembered today when millions of pilgrims stoned the pillars during Hajj. Finally, they reached the place where the sacrifice would take place. The Quran says, when they had both submitted themselves to Allah and Ibrahim laid his son down upon his forehead, there was no hesitation, no turning back, only complete trust in the command of Allah. Then, at the very moment the sacrifice was about to be carried out, Allah called out, "O Ibrahim, you have fulfilled the vision." The test was over. A magnificent ram was sent from paradise to be sacrificed. In Ismail's place, Allah never intended for Ibrahim to lose his son. Allah wanted to show the world what complete submission looks like. That moment would be remembered for every generation to come. Every year, millions of Muslims around the world honor that extraordinary act of faith through the sacrifice of Eid al-Adha. But Allah's greatest honor for Ibrahim was still yet to come. The father and the son, who had surrendered everything, would now be chosen to build the most sacred house on earth. The greatest test had been completed. A father had proven that nothing was more precious to him than obedience to Allah. Now Allah honored Ibrahim with a mission unlike any other. Together, Ibrahim and his son Ismail were commanded to build a house, not a palace, not a fortress, but a place where humanity would worship Allah alone, returning to the same valley where Zamzam had first sprung from the earth. Father and son began raising the foundations, stone by stone. They worked together. Ismail carried the rocks. Ibrahim carefully placed them. Every stone was laid, not for worldly glory, but for the pleasure of Allah. As the walls slowly rose, they never became proud of their work. Instead, they constantly turned to Allah in humility, saying, "Our Lord, accept this from us indeed. You are the all-hearing, the all-knowing." What an extraordinary lesson. Even while carrying out a command from Allah, they still prayed that their deeds would be accepted. As the walls grew higher, Ibrahim stood upon a stone to continue building by the will of Allah. That stone preserved the imprint of his blessed feet. Today it is known as Maqam-e Ibrahim, a reminder of the Prophet who built the first house dedicated to the worship of Allah alone. When the Kaaba was completed, Allah gave Ibrahim another command, one that seemed impossible. He said, "Proclaim the pilgrimage to mankind." Imagine the moment there were no cities filled with believers, no roads, no crowds, no millions of pilgrims, just one prophet standing beside the Kaaba in the middle of a vast desert. How could his voice ever reach the world? But Ibrahim obeyed. He called humanity to the house of Allah, and Allah carried that call across generations, through centuries, and across continents. Today, millions answer that very call every year. People of every language, every race, and every nation stand shoulder to shoulder, wearing the same simple garments, worshiping the same Lord, following the footsteps of Ibrahim. What began with one man in a silent desert has become one of the greatest gatherings in human history. But the greatest honor was not the Kaaba itself. It was the title Allah had already prepared for the man who trusted him without hesitation, a title that no king, no empire, and no worldly achievement could ever equal. Throughout his life, Ibrahim was tested. Again and again, he stood alone against an entire nation. He walked away from his homeland. He was thrown into a blazing fire. He left his wife and infant son. In a barren valley, he raised the knife over the sun. He loved more than anyone else. Yet, through every trial, his heart never changed. He never asked, "Why me?" He never questioned the wisdom of Allah. He simply trusted his Lord. Complete trust, complete submission, complete certainty. That is why Allah honored him with a title given to no ordinary believer, Khalilullah, the friend of Allah. It was not wealth that earned him this honor, not power, not status, not even miracles. It was a heart that belonged entirely to Allah. Ibrahim never allowed anything to come before his Creator, not his family, not his homeland, not his comfort, not even his own beloved son. Everything was surrendered to Allah, and because of that, Allah made Ibrahim the father of generations of prophets. From his son Ishaq came Yaqub, Yusuf, Musa, Dawood, Sulaiman, Zakaria, Yahya, and Isa, and through his son Ismail came the final messenger, Muhammad, peace be upon him. Think about that. Every time we turn toward the Kaaba, we follow the legacy of Ibrahim. Every time pilgrims perform Hajj, they retrace his footsteps. Every time we celebrate Eid al-Adha, we remember his unwavering submission. Even our daily prayers carry his name. Every single day, Muslims around the world say, "O Allah, send your peace and blessings upon Muhammad and upon the family of Muhammad, as you sent peace and blessings upon Ibrahim and upon the family of Ibrahim." More than 4,000 years have passed. Empires have risen and disappeared. Kings have been forgotten. Palaces have turned to dust. But the legacy of one man who trusted Allah completely continues to inspire billions of people. That is the true meaning of success, not to be remembered for what you owned, but to be remembered for your obedience to Allah. And perhaps that is why the story of Ibrahim is not only a story of the past, it is a reminder for every believer that whenever Allah asks us to let go of something, it is never to leave us empty. It is because He intends to replace it with something far greater. The man who stood alone against the world never truly stood alone, because Allah was always with him. As we reach the end of the extraordinary journey of Prophet Ibrahim, one truth shines brighter than every miracle we have witnessed. The greatest miracle was not that the fire became cool. It was not that Zamzam flowed from beneath the feet of a child. It was not even that the Kaaba was built. In the middle of a barren desert, the greatest miracle was a heart that trusted Allah without hesitation. When Allah commanded, Ibrahim obeyed. When the road was uncertain, he walked forward. When the sacrifice seemed impossible, he submitted. Every time he chose faith over fear, submission over comfort, Allah over everything else. That is why his legacy has never faded. His story reminds us that true success is not measured by how much we possess. It is measured by how much we trust the one who possesses everything. Perhaps today, your test is not a blazing fire. Perhaps it is patience, loss, uncertainty, or a prayer that has remained unanswered. Remember Ibrahim, the man who waited years for a son, who left his family in a desert, who was willing to sacrifice what he loved most. And through every trial he discovered that Allah never abandons those who place their complete trust in Him. More than 4,000 years have passed since Ibrahim walked this earth, yet every day his footsteps are still followed. Every prayer that turns toward the Kaaba, every pilgrim who walks between Safa and Marwa, every sacrifice offered on Eid al-Adha, all of them carry the legacy of one man who refused to bow before anything except Allah. That is the legacy of Khalilullah, the friend of Allah. If this story strengthened your faith, share it with someone who may need the reminder that no sacrifice made for Allah is ever lost. And we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which moment from the life of Prophet Ibrahim touched your heart the most? Was it his search for the truth, his courage before the fire, his trust in the sacrifice, or the building of the Kaaba? If you're passionate about authentic Islamic documentaries that bring the stories of the prophets to life, subscribe to FaithVerse and Join us as we continue exploring the greatest stories ever told. Until our next journey, may Allah grant us with the hearts that remain steadfast upon His guidance until we meet Him. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.